So incubation is where we work with individuals who want to set up enterprises. And when we say enterprise, it has to be a social enterprise. We did two almost as a proof of concept for ourselves last year, one of which has taken off, one of which hasn't. The one which has taken off is called Sakha, which is a cab service for women by women in Delhi, which works, and both of them are hybrid structures, which we believe are one of the ways in which the organizations can actually meet the social motive and look at business as well. So this was a lady who has a lot of experience in the NGO sector. She worked with ActionAid and various other organizations, primarily in women's issues, and she set up an NGO to give almost like livelihood options to marginalized women, which will actually break gender barriers, if not immediately, in a long term. And the thing that she actually found was the cab service was growing extensively, and she wanted to see if the women from the marginalized section can actually be trained to be professional chauffeurs and drivers. Because what it does is it just introduces them into a different, level of confidence, which a normal entrepreneurial option that a woman, marginalized woman gets thrown at with is, you do micro enterprises from home, does not give them that kind of confidence and economics as well. As a driver, you can earn significantly more. You get to learn how to actually run a machine which most of them did not have access to. And therefore, she started that NGO in terms of actually doing the outreach with these, with the slum communities, looking at the women who were interested in this, enrolling them for a training program, designing a training program that actually trained such a person, which included self-defense that a Delhi police could provide, which included training that a Maruti could provide, and buying a car and having drivers on herself, because these women needed a lot more practice than you and I would need when we're learning. She wanted to set up a for-profit social enterprise, which is where we came in, and we worked with her through the last year to look at the market, do benchmarking with NGOs and social enterprises that followed a similar model, though not in the same area. We looked at benchmarking with who would be competitors, which is, if you have to run a cab service or a professional chauffeur service, you have to benchmark and talk to a Meru before you actually do this, because those are your competitors. It's not just, you're operating in isolation and people will pay a premium for actually the work that you're doing. We helped her, look at the product and services, understood the legal system, and said, hey, it takes a year before somebody gets a commercial license after getting the permanent license. So in that 1 year, they cannot be a radio taxi driver, but they can be chauffeur. So these are the two services that you can actually do. Do you want to actually look at this kind of capital-intensive industry and invest in your own cars and your own operations, or do you want to look at a co-branded? So we approached a couple of the largest players and said, do you want to set it up as a co-brand? You provide your infrastructure and fleet. We'll provide trained women drivers. You get the benefits of the co-brand, and you split the revenues. So this is the entire process that we went through with her over 1 year, looked at team development, look at how you can actually operationalize the model. We said, just get started. Don't wait for a perfection and don't wait for one beautiful looking spreadsheet. We'll provide you that as well. But just get started. And she went on to win the Big Network Challenge this year in Netherlands. She was one of the 4 finalists, and she won it. So she's like, actually, I'm not even looking at an investor right now. I've got enough from friends and family and through this competition. I will wait for another year, and I will look at. And there are 4 investors who are interested in me due to her Netherlands visit, which Big Network actually gave her access to. And she's like, I'll keep in touch with them 1 year later when I'm in a stronger position, and we'll be able to negotiate a better rate and a better valuation for the company. And I will have proven my point and seen what is the kind of capital I really need. All this is good on paper, maybe it doesn't work out. 1 year later is when I'll actually go to formal investors. So this to us is the entire incubation cycle, where we have taken an individual's idea, helped her give shape to it, made it into, explored the possible models and whether operationally or in terms of products and services that she can do, and brought it to reality. So that's the time when we actually exited formally from the engagement, and one of us continues to be an advisor on the company board, and that's, to us, is a successful incubation. The other one that we did a similar process with an NGO that works on conservation and livelihood issues in Uttarakhand. He himself was an IFP fellow from Ford Foundation, which meant he was a disadvantaged person the way Ford Foundation defines it, and they sent him through that 2-year program which would actually help open up opportunities which such person from such a background would not otherwise achieve or get. And he decided to actually look at a social enterprise, which is a community-based ecotourism model. There's a huge amount of ecotourism model that exists, but through his work with the NGO, he knew that most of it does not reach the community. The community itself in the hills are excluded from it. They will at best be menial labor in that. They will not be the people who will actually benefit from the money that it brings in. And these guys would continue to migrate outside to the cities, and that's a separate issue that it actually creates. So he wants to set up a social enterprise which actually leverages the village land, and the kind of ownership that the village would have is brought through various mechanisms, which is that he set up a village management tourism council, which means those people are the recipients of are really the hosts. It's not the hotel that will be put up, which is a host. And there will be entrepreneurs who will provide the kitchen supplies. There will be somebody who will be trained to actually be a guide to the area that is identified as a place to start off, which is a watershed, has 6 villages near the Dara Meadows, which is supposed to be gorgeous even from a trekker's point of view. He's identified a route which does not have many options for normal people like you and me. There's either an Ananda, or there is the very basic stuff that caters to religious tourists on that stretch between the Uttarkashi town and Gangotri. And these villages are on the way. So, he's identified a place, and what right now he's looking at raising money for, and we're helping him connect to a couple of people, is to demonstrate the proof of concept. Which is that this does work as a business potential. There are tourists who will be interested in a community-based enterprise. For example, he started off with a walk. We said, just start off with a walk. You don't even need to have fancy tents or whatever. Just rent them out and see what makes sense. Ecotourism works, and community-based tourism sounds so sexy, but are there really people willing to pay for it? What are the other models that have worked, what has not worked? So we have to talk to Snow Leopard Trust, which does a similar kind of work in Spiti. There are people who are doing similar work in Northeast. What are the challenges they have faced when they work with the community? How does the terrain matter? So for example, it's easy to think of homestays, earlier, not before this disaster, in Leh, because in Uttarakhand, after the disaster it has faced, most of the construction is cement. And it's not attractive as a homestay option because that's not what is the local culture. It's just something that got dumped off because reconstruction was important. So just the uniqueness of the geography, and we helped him actually walk the entire process. So these are the 2 incubations that we did. What we do call as incubation, but they're not really of independent social enterprises. We actually helped the hub in Bombay, helped design their offering of the hub, which is a space for social entrepreneurs to actually come and leverage in case they don't have their own office. It's not just a physical space that gets provided, it's also a network of people who are like-minded, and you get somebody to talk to. The most, I think the entrepreneur, an individual entrepreneur is probably the loneliest person because he does not have anybody to talk to. And you need that network just to even bounce off ideas and to see what's working, what's not working, learn from them. So these are something that we looked at as proof of concepts for ourselves, and this year we are taking a step back and seeing what worked well, what didn't work well. How can we actually do this in a bigger, better way? And our hope is to actually, for the next year, we do something similar with 10 organizations.